Okay, I think this is live. Okay, I think we're adding. Come
Hi.
on. There she is.
Hey,
Is it working?
I think it's working.
Okay.
think
I have no idea how to tell if this is working or not.
I can see you.
Oh, I can see you, and I see Carly and April.
Yay. Hi.
So I think this should be going to everyone. Anyone, any of your friends and my friends. So, yeah, and then I think we can save it afterwards. So then
Perfect.
we can, yeah. So we'll have it. So, thank you everyone who is joining us in the present and in the future. But we are doing an interview today to talk about the upcoming Sexy Pole Challenge starting on February 5th.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, and I'm going to be interviewing Carmine so we can get more information and just for an excuse to talk to you.
I know, it's been a while. I miss you. We don't talk
I miss
like we used to.
you. I know. Well, now everyone will just have to sit in as we chat. So,
Awesome.
So, first of all, Sexy Pole Challenge. It is an Instagram challenge.
Yes. Yeah, this is the third year of the Sexy Pole Challenge. We initially started it, or I initially started it, a friend of mine was kind of like trying to get me to do it. She was like, you should try one, you should do it, it would be really fun. And around the time that we started talking about it, when I was looking at all of the challenges that were currently available, and a majority of challenges now, everything was very structured in regards to it being a daily thing where you would focus on a trick or some kind of transition. And I just found that really challenging because even though I do it professionally, it's really hard to work on just one thing or even have the time and ability to just focus on one particular trick and then be really disciplined about doing something every single day. And I wanted to make it a little more open-ended. And so this is kind of how it started, right? And so instead of making it day to day, we did like week to week, which felt a little easier to digest.
Yeah, instead of like day one, do this spin,
The
day
J.
two, which nothing wrong with that, but we were like, oh, isn't it cool if you can't do something every day to have a full week to try to get something and then coming up with a larger concept for the week as opposed to like specific instruction.
Yeah, and I felt like in general, I felt like it was really intimidating for a lot of people who did like exploring something outside of like pole, like in regards to apparatus, like people that like floor work, people who like to dance, people who like exploring styles. I just wanted to make it more conceptual and not really pin it down because everyone's expression of movement is different. And I felt like the challenge really provided a space for that for everyone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, totally. So, um, what are the 4 weeks this year? So what are people getting ready for?
Well, every year is different. The
Yeah.
first 2 years were really focused on external things like the floor and the pole and inherently an apparatus in regards to exploring movement. And the second year was very focused on style, right? Like what kind of styles in regards to sensuality and sexuality do you really align with, especially when you put heels on or if you don't, but where do you align in regards to your movement quality? And then this particular year, I wanted to internalize it a little more and still make it just as conceptual and focus on what feels sexy to you. Like what evokes sensuality in your body, not just like um, what's expected inherently. And so I wanted to make it a more internal. And it's kind of like what do you feel in regards to movement that makes you feel this way? What do you think about when you think about these things? And so that's how I kind of like fleshed out this particular year in regards to the Sexy Pole Challenge.
Yeah, in the previous years it was like week 1 floor work, week 2 wall play, or
Oh,
low flow, and then
yeah.
it was what stripper style versus classique,
Yeah.
and so
Or
yeah.
static. Like easier to have a framework, right? I initially thought that everybody like knew the differentiation between like classique or stripper style and like Russian exotic, but then we realized that that wasn't the case. So it was really great that we like created a sense of like enrichment for people to explore like what's the differentiation between those things. And this particular year I wanted to focus on things that evoke you, like, so the first week is presentational play. It's like, what do you put on your body that inherently makes you feel good? Like, does your hair up make you feel sexy? Does your hair down make you feel sexy? I like wearing sweatpants and a hoodie. That makes me feel sexy. Like putting on heels makes me feel sexy. For some people, it's barefoot. Um, and so it's not about like what other people are necessarily perceiving inherently outside of yourself. It's like what makes you feel good about you, and then how do you evoke that in movement? And that's the first week. The second week, I believe, is music, right?
Musicality?
Yeah, musicality and exploration. It's like we just resonate with certain styles of music. Like some people like contemporary stuff, and that like really fuels our sensuality. Some people like booty shit. Some people like really hard, angry stuff. And it's like you know pretty quickly what evokes your sensuality or your sexuality, and then kind of figuring out a way to express that and then share it. The third week is emotionality, which I think is vulnerable for a lot of people when it comes to sexy, like infusing like what makes us feel in relation to what makes us feel sexy. Like I used to have a group in LA, and we used to call ourselves the Sad Girls Club, and everyone's like, that sounds depressing. And I'm like, no, these girls get down. I play a sad song and they're just like, yeah. And I was like, wow, okay, cool. And so it's not always like the good stuff that's like really lighthearted music doesn't necessarily evoke us emotionally in a sensual way. Sometimes it's heavier, sometimes it's darker. For some people, it's lighter. Sometimes it's just like, I just want to shake my butt. And I think that there's something to be said for connecting, like really actively, critically thinking about your emotionality and how that fuels you into feeling sexy. And then the last week, which might be the most challenging, is connection and energy play, right? Because we don't always realize that the people around us inherently evoke different kinds of parts of ourselves that make us feel sexy. I did a thing in my intensity the other day where I had people like video other people. And it's one thing if you're videoing yourself because you can critique that all day, but it's another thing when someone's actually presently being focused for you and seeing what's beautiful about you and how that shifts your energy so much. There's something to be said for how other people connect us and how that brings us out of our own shell. And so I wanted to utilize those 4 weeks and kind of like internalize it and then kind of bring it in and see what happens for everybody.
Yeah. So for connection energy play, what are some advice for that one? Because that one I think is probably going to be the most confusing. So do you have any ideas of like how people can do that? Do you suggest like bringing someone else in, or do you suggest
someone you feel safe with, right?
Okay.
But for some people it's like, I want to like, maybe I like 1 week I dance, and it doesn't even have to be that particular the week that, you know, it could have been before, but it's like I danced on stage and it was just everyone's energy and it pulled my sexy out of me. Or I danced for a friend and my friend recorded me, or my friend was just in the space and we danced together. I was with my homies and we were all dancing and we were just shaking our ass and it was really fun, and it just made me feel really good because sometimes that energy bouncing off of each other just fuels it, right? And it's really hard for a lot of us to dance alone. It's really hard for some of us to really connect to those parts of ourselves by ourselves. It's easier with other people.
It's totally a difference when I'm just in the studio by myself or at home, whatever, like, oh, I'm going to do this, even if I'm recording, versus like someone's there. All of a sudden there's like that magnetism of like, oh,
yeah,
okay, now like I feel your connection, and I have like definitely different urges of how I want to perform.
Sure.
So that's a good week 4 of the Sexy Pole Challenge. Like people should get together and get like nights at their studios.
Yes.
To like film each other and stuff. That's a really good excuse to like get together. I know at my studio, Minx and Muse, we are doing a week before that, so we'll just maybe cheat and do it that night. But I'm doing like a free play night for anyone who wants to record and take advantage for the challenge and stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think there's something to be said for when I'm in a studio with other people that make me feel safe. Like it just like makes me feel alive in a very interesting way. Whereas if I were dancing for my partner, it's very vulnerable and very intimate, and I might be shyer if I'm on stage. I might be just like, yeah, like it's like notice the how varied your expression of your sensuality shifts from environment to person to even your perspective of yourself. And I'm really excited for that one in particular. And it's really nice
Yeah.
to give people an opportunity to actively think about what sexy is for them, and not just about like, this is what looks sexy. I think we spend a lot of time in pole thinking about what looks sexy instead of really sort of authentically experiencing what that might be for ourselves in our own way.
Yeah, that's what I like. Actually, let's go through the other 3 weeks too, just because it's really interesting. Even on week one, the
Presentation.
presentational play.
Mm-hmm.
I think on a very shallow level, someone may be like, "Oh, I put on heels, I'm sexy." When like reality is, no, you stated the opposite, that it was sweatpants and hoodie. So allowing yourself to discover what makes you feel sexy, not what people say, like what society deems as sexy. So maybe it's just like you and nipple tassels going at it in a G-string,
Yeah.
and that's awesome. But maybe it's you in like a tattered t-shirt. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually really interested to see like what, if someone has a choice to put on something that makes them feel completely sexy to take part in this challenge, what do they choose?
Yeah, I think there's a matter of what I mean, like when I think about how I curate my Instagram, for example, it's like, like to be honest with you, I really would just want to be in a hoodie and a sweatshirt half the time and some sneakers, and like I would live my best life. Like, but nobody wants to see that shit sometimes. But and I think that I reserve those experiences for myself and my friends. Like, I have one of my really good friends, Gina, Gina, like her
Hey,
hair,
Gina, I
I
think
know
she's
I'm
watching.
she'll like have her hair up all like librarian bun and shit, and then that hair comes down and you're just like, oh my god, right? It's just,
She's
and it's like an
fish,
entirely
yeah.
different woman. And I think that exploring that and seeing like what these little triggers do for you to kind of like entice you into really like embodying what your sensuality is, I think is really important and valuable. And I don't want to make it so like make it so shallow, because I think
Yeah.
those presentational things can be very deep for us, where it's like, all right, my hair is up and I'm reserved. Okay, I took my hair down. Okay.
Yeah.
Like like I
It's
love when
hard.
my ass is out. Like I like my tummy covered, but like when my butt's out, I'm like living my best life. I'm like, yes, booty back. And I think that there's something to be said for that. Like what parts of my body feel safe, where I really feel embodied, and then what parts of myself feel like more reserved, where I feel more inhibited, right? And there's
Mm-hmm.
those are things that you can explore, especially that week.
Yeah, that's cool. And people who, in the opposite, are forced to wear suits all day, or to be very, for them, maybe it is like the assless chaps are coming out and like, yay, now you have an excuse to do it.
And I love that the pole community really celebrates the idea of adorning our bodies, right?
Yeah.
That there is something fascinating about wearing ashless chaps, or, tassels, or a hoodie, and it can all be sexy. And I love utilizing the challenge to celebrate that experience.
Yeah, I'm excited to see all of the diversity with the hashtag, and the fact that because it's not dictating specific moves,
Yeah.
that it is open to all levels,
Yeah.
so that it's someone who's just found this type of movement and dance style a few weeks ago could join just
Yeah.
as much as someone who's been in the community from the get-go.
Yeah.
So
And I really want to encourage that you don't need a poll for this, even though it's a sexy poll challenge. You don't need a poll. Like, you can be at home. You be somewhere. You go somewhere where you feel the safest, where you really feel like you can express that part of yourself. And because it's so open-ended, it's like someone who is really experienced in movement can do all the extra, and someone who's kind of like, I don't know what's happening, but like they're just the sexiest woman alive, and they're just like, I'm just feeling myself. Do it, please. I would love to see that.
yeah, the rules is that there's no rules except try to follow the the topic of the week.
Yeah, and I think that there's something to be said for being authentic about it, right? Um, like, I'm not asking you to do a jade. I'm not asking you to do a shit ton of floor work. I'm literally just like be authentic, live your best life. What do you feel like is sexy? And then I just want to see you, just see all of you, and that's it.
Yeah.
Which for some people, they would rather just do. They would rather do the work, right? They would rather do the work than just be like, this is how I feel sexy.
And it's an excuse that if you've like, I've been dabbling with the idea of maybe participating in a challenge or even just posting something to my social media. Well, now you have a challenge that is kind of giving you that excuse. Well, oh, I'm participating in this challenge. So it's like that extra nudge that some people may need, which is really rad.
Yes. Well, I think there's something to be said for, we work on technique all the time. Most studios you go at, it's like choreo heavy, it's technique heavy. You're working your butt off. And like, you might at best get like 3 minutes to free dance or 3 minutes to just explore like what your body inherently wants to do in an organic way. And I feel like this challenge is giving people the permission to figure that out without someone telling them what that looks like or telling them how that feels. And I think there's something to be said for doing the work. Yeah.
Yeah. Forcing you to discover it on your own and discover yourself, which is like I'm personally big on. So, and I know you are too. So
you're an adult.
Yeah.
You're an adult. We're all adults. Figure it out. I can't help you. Can't help you.
Yeah. And then the next week is musicality, which is another fun one because so often we're like, we are bound to what is being played at the studio or, you know, what teachers are choosing for us. So this is really fun to be like, if you had your choice, like what kind of music would you dance to? What makes you feel sexy? And you may be surprised, you're so used to dancing maybe to a certain type of music, but then in this challenge you can realize like, wait,
well, actually, I will be real with you. Everybody thinks they can dance to something and then they dance to it and it's like, nope. And then you give them, and they're just like, yeah, like it's there. And it's like, and they're in their head, they're like, this doesn't feel right. But your ass is saying something entirely different. And we kind of disconnect from the thinking and the feeling aspect of ourselves. We don't allow our bodies inherently to always lead what's happening. And it might be a really good way. I'm going to be curating playlists throughout, especially throughout this week.
Cool.
I mean, I was just on my Spotify last week, and I was like, I have 189 playlists on that thing. I was just like, sheesh. But I was just like, I literally am just always consumed with like listening to music and sharing music, and just kind of tasting what might work on my bodies and other people's bodies and seeing what resonates. And I think there's something to be said for figuring out what works for you and then dancing and maybe seeing if there might be other ways or other avenues to explore that might make your body talk in different ways.
Yeah. No, I can relate to that. Like recently I tried to dance to a specific style of music that I felt like, oh, I should dance to that during like a freestyle thing with just some homies, and it bombed. And I was like, why was I forcing myself to dance to that style? And it was all the music, and I was like, oh, and I'm gonna do this and this. And then you know, recently, now that I've had the studio, I'm like, I realized like that I like watching that, but I can't dance to that. That does not bring out like my lioness. So
it's like, yeah, my body's like, shut, no, not happening. I think that I've listened to enough music in my life to know, like, it's like, okay, I like this, but that's not going to happen. But I think that listening to music is just as much a discipline as learning how to dance or learning a trick. It's being actively aware of what's happening, and the more you can really tap into those things, I think the more you'll connect to what's happening with your body.
Yeah, totally. That's going to be a fun week. And so if you guys aren't following Carmine already on Spotify, go find her.
Follow me anywhere else. Just follow my Spotify.
Yeah. My entire Spotify is just pole dancers that, you know, they have the best playlists. So this will be really fun for people to share with each other too. I feel like, I mean, Instagram's not as strict with the music law as Facebook. So you can get away with a lot more. I guess that's going to be our only issue, but they haven't really been doing anything lately. So I feel like I'm going to discover some good stuff.
Yeah. And I like the idea of, especially for week 2 with the music, like if you find that you're really inspired by curating your own playlist, I would even suggest that and sharing that so that other people can just kind of have this conglomerate of music that you can kind of just take upon and play with. And you know, I'm a big advocate for sharing, particularly music. So like week 2 is
Yeah.
gonna be my jam.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna find a lot of new good stuff to like update our class playlist and stuff. So that's gonna be
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Pilfer, music. That's what it's there for.
Yeah, yeah. And then the next week is emotionality.
Yes. Uh, you know, we just talked about week 4, but we
Combination of
it
everything.
really is a combination. It's like literally like what how just a little mashup of like what makes something sexy. Um, I feel like for me, you know, I'm not necessarily driven by technique. I'm a very technical person by nature. And so when I dance, I want to shut that shit down. Like, I don't want to sit there and think about the next thing I'm going to do and the next thing I'm going to do. Like, people ask me when I post stuff, they're just like, oh, that choreo was great. I'm like, I don't choreograph 99% of anything that I ever do unless somebody pays me for it. Like, it's just like I pulled that out of my butt. Like, it's just, you know, and sometimes I might see something like, oh, that might be cool. Um, but a lot of the intentionality that is fueled by how I feel. And I
Mhm.
let that kind of guide where I go from one thing to the next. And I think that's why it resonates. Like certain dancers resonate with certain people because it's just raw, it's authentic. It's not like I'm not concerned about what trick I'm doing next, which is great because I appreciate that. And I think majority of the pole community really sort of advocates and supports that. And I feel like I feel like there's kind of like a shift where people are also supporting the fact that it's like, look, I want to just freestyle and I want to feel and I want to just share. I want to share with you what's going on with me, and I don't want to talk about it. I just want to share it with you. I just want to dance it out, you know. Um, and I think emotionality for a lot of people in regards to movement is very vulnerable and uncomfortable. But when you see it, it's authentic and it resonates more than just doing one thing and then another and then another and then another. Um, and that's one thing I've noticed like everywhere I've toured, whether it's Europe or the US or anywhere, there's kind of like, are you listening? Are you feeling? Are you tapped into what's happening here? And if you're not, we're starting all over again. Technique is everywhere, choreo is everywhere, but feeling and being sort of authentic about where we are is something that I feel like we're just kind of getting into in the pole community in regards to movement and movement quality.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for people who maybe who struggle with this type of like vulnerability or even just getting out of their head? Because I think so often people are structured to like, oh, this needs to be perfect. There needs to be perfection in this, so they won't even allow themselves to be that vulnerable and to feel. So
Well, if you feel
there's
that way, it will never be perfect. Like it's
yeah,
like progress, not perfection. It'll never be perfect, but you got to get to a place where you literally I like to call it your little bitch on your shoulder, like that little person that just loves to tell you everything's wrong and it's not clean enough or it's not pretty enough or you could have done it better, right? And not just kind of accepting, like I was telling my students the other day at the LA intensive, I was like, for as bad as you think you're doing today, I guarantee you, you're way better than when you first started, like day one. Day one class, I guarantee you, your movement quality is significantly so much better than the first day you touched a pole. And I think that there's something to be said for acknowledging the fact that you've worked to get where you're at and supporting that experience. And we have a hard time with allowing people to just see us for who we are and what we are because we feel like we'll be judged and we won't be supported. But um, I think there are plenty of people in the pole community that can resonate with the fact that it's like that there are a lot of people that are willing to support you, no matter
yeah,
what you look like, how you feel, that we're all here for very similar reasons. I feel like a lot of people gravitate towards pole for a specific reason. It's like it's all this like this. There's a thing there because if that wasn't the case, you would do CrossFit, or you would do yoga, you
yeah,
do all these different types of things, right? But I think that there's something to be said for there's something very deep and innate about the sensuality of pole that resonates in a lot of us, and I think that when you get to a place where you're just like, this is me. I'm just shaking my ass and touching my pussy today. Or I'm literally just like, I just want to feel my things. And people will just be like, yes. Like, um, because I think people love authenticity. There's something
mhm,
to be said for that. I think that we don't think that's true, but even when you engage with people, you can sense when someone's not being sincere and authentic. You don't want to mess with those people, right? And there's something to be said for when you watch. I can watch something pretty quickly. I don't care what anybody says, and know pretty quickly. Like my bullshit meter's pretty like, okay, cool, I'm good. That's why I don't even watch Instagram anymore. I would say I go on there to post, and like I occasionally get to see my friends because my algorithm is all messed up. I don't see most of my friends anymore. So I'm like so disconnected from social media. Like it's just like I want to feel you. And if I can't feel it, I don't even want to watch it anymore. And that's why I've been really excited about the Sexy People Challenge, because it's like I just want to see what that feels like. I want to see what exploration feels like in your body. I want to see what you feel like when you feel sexy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely watch the most polished, gorgeous,
beautiful
or not perfect, but you can just from very quickly look when you're seeing someone even on stage or in class or whatever, and like, are they
thinking
so
about
mechanical?
Yeah.
Or are they so connected and that you like you don't have to do anything and you're just like, holy shit, like you're so blown away by it. This is like perfection. So the perfection comes in like the connection and those and that authenticity that you spoke about. So
yeah, I mean, like you can dance, and I'm like, you're thinking about your bills or your wife can pay or all the things you need to be doing, except the fact that you are literally right here in this moment. And there's something about being present that we have a hard time with, and sometimes being present doesn't always feel good, but sometimes it's better to just let that shit out. And I think that there's resistance there, right? And that's okay too. But I want to be an advocate for like people exploring what their honesty or their truth is in regards to sensuality and sexuality, because that's a really hard thing for a lot of people.
yeah,
We can be honest about a lot of things, but in regards to like our very vulnerable parts of ourselves or our sensual or sexual parts of ourselves, it's just like it's like clouded in shame. It's not okay. We're not okay. Like it's not okay to be sexy.
well, yeah, and like let's talk about that, because you clearly have had a lot of experience on that side, because you are very open about your sexuality and sensuality in your dance, and you have like a very public profile. I mean, real talk, we may be so supportive and encouraging of this type of exploration, but it's not. That's why some people are so scared or apprehensive about it, because like this idea of what is acceptable, not acceptable, social norms, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's hard. It's hard not to be supported potentially by your community. It's hard to not be supported by your friends or your family. It's definitely, or your loved ones, or for people to shame you for just doing something that feels good, and that is not. It's not like I'm going out and shooting people. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I go around hurting people. Like, I'm a big advocate for really sort of supporting the idea of like just being like straight, and just like integrity is a thing. And it's like, just because you love doing something, if it doesn't hurt anybody else, why should you feel bad about that? Or why should you shame someone else for doing something that they like and you don't identify with it?
Yeah.
Somebody might be like, I'm into blah blah blah. I'm like, I don't, that's not my thing. But you're still a good person. Like, it's,
Yeah. You're not gonna blast them on social media like, oh.
I'm not gonna shame them. I'm not gonna make them feel bad.
Yeah.
And I think that there are people in the pole community that did, especially the first year, where it gave them permission to explore even wearing heels and like wanting to share that, or their butt being out. Oh my God, my butt's out, and it being okay. And I think that like, it's made more people receptive to exploring the idea of what they think is sexy is, because most people are just like, I put on heels and then sexy, and it's like, okay, well, if that's your interpretation of sexy, fine. But at least more people are receptive, and they're giving themselves permission to not feel ashamed of their bodies, not feel ashamed of pole, and be an advocate for it. And I like that the challenge has supported that.
Yeah, there's definitely so much power. Like the way I always try to think of, well, I have the one mantra that is, if you're not offending someone, you're boring everyone. And so always keep that in mind, because you want to be boring. But also, there's more power in coming into your sensuality and sexuality than there is in staying silent and stifled at the end of the
But
day.
all
And
of us feel safe, and that's the
yeah.
there's something to be said for. I don't think that there would have been as much pushback. I'm gonna be real in regards to the pole community. I don't think there would be as much pushback in regards to sexy for as long as there was if that wasn't a thing. And this is not outside of the pole community. This is inside the pole community.
Mm-hmm.
Where now I see a lot of people who are just like, they're not about heels and not about sexy and slut shaming for real. And now they're just like, I'm sexy. And I'm just like, good for you. And I don't want to be about it, but it's like, it's bittersweet because it's like, I'm glad you came around, but it was kind of lonely here for a second. And it's not like and it's really hard when you're sitting there and just like, this is just me, and being shamed for that in a community that should support that. And now it's kind of like, we've all come around and now we're on all the sexy train, but it's like, why are you here? Because and I hate saying that, and I hate sounding petty about it, but because I'm really happy with where it's going, because now it feels more collectively connected in regards to this aspect of it. But I feel like for a lot of people, whether it was strippers or sex workers or just women who just like being sexy, I just felt like there was a lot of marginalization, like demarginalization, where they were just kind of feeling like, I don't feel like I can go to a studio and feel safe. I don't feel like I can post something with people in my own pole community and not be judged about it. And I like that things like this are kind of like, it's okay, guys. Like, you're not bad. We're all good.
Yeah.
Get off my soapbox on that one. That makes me really heated, but sure.
I mean, you had to bear the brunt of a lot of it, so I understand. You're obviously gonna have emotional reactions to things more so, but I'm just happy that it's on the upswing, and hopefully it's on the upswing of like, and like we're also accepting all types of pole. I think it just comes with being like with everything, and like I've said it a million times, you said it a million times, like it doesn't need to be said again, but yeah, it's just another aspect of pole that you should never be ashamed of, and you shouldn't have to dial down if you're interested in exploring that. And like you said before, it is probably something that drew you to pole in the beginning, even if you didn't want to admit it.
Contemporary movement, I started shaming you for contemporary movement. Like, wait a second, I'm just, stop it. Like, but you know, and there are also a lot of people outside of the pole community that do as well. And I feel like the more awareness, you know, and the more people are advocating for themselves, even if they don't do movement that's sensual, like they're advocating for how important and valuable it is in their lives. I think that it's just, it gets better every day.
Yeah, and I feel like I want to say that I hope, even if people aren't into like Instagram, or if they're not into posting for this challenge, like just use the topics for each week to maybe just explore on your own, and you don't have to share with other people, but you may find that it really helps you grow and connect with yourself on a deeper level just by following the themes of the week.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people who have private accounts and they're like, I don't really want to make this public, but if you add me and you tag me, will you watch it? And I'm like, hell yeah, you can just message me that shit. I'm totally about it. Like, I just want to see it. And at the end of the day, all of this stuff, that whether or not you want to share, it's for you. And I just preface it. It's like, this is for you. This is for your own enrichment. This is for your own personal like growth. And I think that if you get something out of it, that's all I want.
Yeah. Have fun with it.
I mean, you'll get stuff if you post, potentially. But
if you want to win the swag.
It's good. It's good this year.
Let's shout out to the sponsors. So I don't know what they're giving, but week 1 is Wicked Woman.
Yes. So Kelsey Alabama is a co-host or owner of Wicked Woman, and it's a show in Los Angeles, but she designs a lot of my costumes, and she's amazing and talented and sexy as fuck. She won semi-pro for Dance Filthy, like hands down was like the filthiest of all the filthiest of the semi-pros. Super sexy as fuck. She makes amazing costumes. She's hot. She's beautiful. And she just made my costume for Bad to the Chrome. And so she was like, hey, I was like, hey, can you make some stuff for week 1? She's like,
so she's making costumes for people too,
like outfits. So she's like designing like a thing for the winner and then the overall. So she sent me something, but I don't have it in front of me. And she's really good about like if you give her like if you had specific measurements and specifications. Sorry, the sirens are loud here. They loved.
There's crime going on in Brooklyn.
All over the place. But she's really good about especially if you give her measurements, because our bodies are all, she's very good at like working with your body. And so
yeah, she made some buttless contraption thing for when you were at the Secret Pole Dance Studio. We did our showcase.
Our booty thing.
Yeah, and she made some assless contraption thing that I still own and is really nice. So yeah, Kelsey's really good at coming up with some really cool costumes.
She is. But if I don't use Brandon Grimm, I use Kelsey, and Kelsey's amazing. So I would suggest her. But so she will be.
So that's week 1.
And yeah, week 2. Was it you?
It's Nightshade Designs.
Nightshade, Tiffany. I love Tiffany. She's like hardworking, and she's got a really great eye for style, and I'm one of her brand ambassadors, but we had been chatting a while, and she made my shoes for Dance Filthy, and I was just like, oh my god, I love you.
She makes, guys, follow her. It's Nightshade Designs, like on Instagram or Facebook, wherever. She makes the most creative, like her shoe glitter design game is
on point.
It's on fleek, yeah.
There's like one other person, but she uses like car paint and stuff besides that chick. Like Tiffany, hands down, has like the best like glitter design and stuff like that. I've also used, she's the only one in the United States where it's just like your heel game's on point.
it's insane. There is a lot of talented people out there, but she's like definitely has introduced a lot of things that I hadn't seen before in shoe design. That was like very, very creative. So
she made me this Art Deco shoe that I can't wait to wear, and I will be wearing that very shortly when I get it.
Oh yes, can't wait to see those. And then yeah, week 3's me. Well, not Pole Parlour, but Minx and Muse, my studio. So that is, I just snuck myself in there since could do a little promo, but that is my studio in Austin, Texas. So I have a bunch of swag.
She's got great too. Let's just give it up for you, because you have a great. I feel like everybody that I asked to do this year like has an amazing sense of style and like just very creative. And of all of the years that I've invited people, and I've loved all of my sponsors.
Yeah.
This particular year, I really am proud of the sponsors that I have. And like we're even doing an overall winner, and I asked like other sponsors to add to this gift basket that I'm going to put together myself. So yeah, I'm excited about that. And then 4 is Heel Huggers.
Yes.
And Rebecca Hellmans is when I was touring, I was taping my feet, and she laughed at me one day when I was on tour in Nashville, and she was just like, if I took the way you actively taped your feet, can I turn that into something? And she did. And then we went back and forth on prototypes, and so it was kind of like I inspired the idea from her, and so she's been making those ever since, and they're licensed.
What do you mean taping your feet?
So you'll notice that after wear on heels, particularly over, even a short duration of time, the heat allows the plastic to expand, the plastic straps, and so there's not a lot of ankle stability. And so I'm really keen on actively supporting the arch and supporting the ankle without creating a lot of restriction. And so I was like taping from the arch and then wrapping around sort of above the ankle.
Okay.
I was doing it in like different iterations, and I was showing her how I was doing that. She was like, well, what if I utilized like elastic straps and I tied something and Velcroed, what do you think? And I was just kind of like, well, make it and send me some stuff. And she was just like, and I was like, holy crap, it works.
So it's for like support while you're training and stuff?
Yeah, because
cool.
Yeah, for heels. Yeah, if you wear heels,
cool.
You should have something like that. Definitely her stuff is great.
Yeah, we're all learning, like, how do you properly train in stripper heels and when you're doing some of this stuff?
Well, it depends, it depends on the heels you're wearing. It depends on the active work that you're doing. If you're like doing, like for example, total off tangent, like if you're doing dynamic training and you're utilizing like Russian exotic style, I would not use a lot of heels. I would probably do something more like a really hollow base.
Okay.
Yeah, if you tend to actively transfer your weight more into your heel, then I would have more of a D heel, not a stiletto. But the lighter the better, and you want a lot of ankle support. So a mat boot is probably going to be better than a 10-inch heel, you know, or
when are 10-inch heels appropriate if you're not Nadia
floor
Sharif?
work.
Like...
Yeah, if you are not Nadia Sharif on the real, you should not be wearing 10-inch heels, because I have not seen 10-inch heels where I was like, though, who's that Alana chick from Russia? She dances with Sasha Meow. I'd say her and Nadia Sharif are the only two people I've seen in 9-10-inch heels where it's like, everybody else I'm like, no.
Oh my gosh.
Like standing and dancing.
I think I've seen Alethea. Alethea can pull it off too, but
Alethea, yes. Alethea can pull off anything. Alethea almost doesn't count. She just can stand there and then do a standing split, and you're like, yes. She's not trying to go on a 10-inch heel. She's just she's just beautiful. Like, and she's not trying to stand in it the entire time either.
Well, I saw Nadia Sharif at PoleCon just run across a carpeted floor in 10-inch heels, and I was like, the same floor that I just fell over in 8-inch heels. Because I was trying to walk and just like, oh, this carpet's very tough.
Yeah.
And
those are like 7s, and you're like, holy shit. She's in like 10s, and she's bucking it, and you're like, exactly. If you can't buck it in some 10-inch heels, you should not be wearing that shit. You better roll. You better barrel roll down the floor. Like,
they're pretty cool for photo shoots, though.
Yes. Again, photo shoots, floor work, aerial stuff. I would say ankle training. You want to bust out some like heel clock splits? Yeah. You better wear some 10s. But outside of that, they might be the only two people I've ever seen consistently in 9s or 10s where I'm like,
damn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so we covered all of that. One last thing I wanted to ask you just before we ended this last broadcast. How do you feel that finding and exploring and discovering your own sexuality has helped you grow as a person? Or has it?
It has. It's hard.
Okay.
It's hard to be that honest. Like authenticity, right? It's very interesting in the way that I channel that energy in myself and how it makes people uncomfortable. Because there's a lot of power in like owning whatever, like really stepping into your sexuality and then being like, this is just me. And like, I'm not like that all the time. I'm not Carmine all the time. I'm not literally just like, this is my puss. Like, that's not awkward and clumsy and shy. Like in my day-to-day life, how I am, like when I'm teaching or how I am when I'm dancing is like a very different animal. And when I tap into those parts of myself, there's a lot of power there. And I think that it can be very intimidating. And I think that taking ownership of that has always been challenging for me, because I feel like we talked about slut shaming or shaming in general. Like a lot of people are uncomfortable with that. Men and women are really uncomfortable with that. And then figuring out ways to just kind of like make amends with that experience and just like allow yourself to be like okay with that has always been kind of like challenging. But it's definitely made me more understanding of all different kinds of people and other experiences in other people's lives, and just kind of like trying to use that as a teacher to reinforce to other people that they, even not necessarily in regards to sensuality or sexuality, but just kind of reclaiming who they are as individuals and trying to really advocate and support that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's power in it. So there's power in the sexy, and there's power in just being able to recognize it within yourself. Mm-hmm. You know, so many people, it's funny when we have parties at the studio, we have women come in who have never been have never touched a pole, or who have never even been in like a sensual type situation. And it's crazy to me because I've been around all you crazy, badass, sexy bitches for so long, that when these women come in and they cannot do a chair dance routine without cracking up.
Just like,
and
oh my God.
like,
titties.
Yeah, like they're so, it's like something that is so inaccessible to them, and by the end I can usually crack them a little bit and I see them like getting a bit grindy and stuff,
Yeah.
but you know, it's, they've legitimately never accessed that side of themselves, and these are bachelorette parties, so one of them get married, you know, so I'm like, I mean, come on.
And I also think too, I think even walking in, you're like, I know what sexy is, and then you go in there, you're like, oh no, I don't. Like
Yeah.
there's a rude awakening when you walk into a pole studio and you think you know what sexy is, and then you see all these women in there, or men, women, just a conglomerate of people, and
Yeah.
they are like embodied in their sexuality, and you're just like, it literally just humbles you so hard. And I think that the physicality and the connectivity, like bringing those things together, forces you, if you're willing to do the work, to really sort of access that within yourself. And I like that pole has been a space, a safe space for people to experience that.
Yeah, I remember the first time I walked into Secret, like that's where my first studio. And you know,
There's nothing like
oh no, yeah, that's my home studio for life. Even though I now own a studio, I miss my Secret girls. But I remember walking in, and I always had this idea in my mind: what is sexy? Okay, it looks like this. It's skinny. It's, you know, it's perfect makeup. It is like, you know, a sexy outfit. And then I walked in there, and it was all different shapes and sizes and backgrounds and ages, and it was one of my first realizations of like, that, oh, that's sexy. And it's not something that the media sold me, that you tried to sell to me in a magazine. It is this energy that these people, these women and men are putting off, that's like, they feel themselves and they have connected with themselves and are like in this authentic movement. I'm like, that was like, whoa.
Yeah, I remember when I was teaching everywhere, and Diamond asked me to teach there, and I was kind of like, oh no. And then I like actually came into the space when there was actual classes and taught, and I was like, I'm home. I was like, this is what this was supposed to feel like. I was just like, it was just raw, you know. And I tell people, it's like, you want to just get raw, like just go there, like you want to just live your shit, like anything. You want to be sexy, you want to be ratchet, you want to feel things, like go there, like. And I really loved that. You know, I feel like there were so many everywhere I go. All studios are all amazing, and there's so much support in regard to that. But there was definitely one studio where it was just kind of like, throw your shit on the floor, just throw it. And
it influenced me so much.
Catching it.
And all studios have that potential, and all studios have, like, you know, are so great and so amazing. But I think just having found Secret Pole Dance Studio in Los Angeles, where I started and where, you know, you taught for a while, was like, it really encouraged me with my current studio to be like, that's what I want to offer people. I want to allow people to feel sexy, as opposed to like, you know, them being bombarded their whole life that they need, you know, to look sexy.
Yeah,
it's
there's
different
enforcement of what it looks like, and then there's a difference when you realize what it should feel like, and they're not always gonna match. And there's something to be said for, if there's a way you can actually marry the two, that's amazing. But usually sexy is messy. Sexy is a little messy sometimes. And it's not clean. It's not supposed to be clean always. It's not supposed to be polished. It's dirty. And like, that's not bad. That's hot.
Yeah. It's, yes, exactly. And that's why, you know, it's hard to say, oh, like, if that's right and that's wrong. It's just, you feel it. And so I hope everyone partakes in this challenge and allows themselves to feel
sexy,
feel that, because it's something, once you connect with, like, you want to stay with. And that's why I think so many people get addicted to this style of dance. And that's why I like love searching this hashtag every year, because you get people like from
everywhere,
from all experience levels and everywhere, and just like feeling themselves. And it's just like this energy going out into the world.
And I love that they're proud to share it, and that they have people that are proud to support it. And you know, I could do it all year, but that's a month is a lot. This should give you sort of the impetus to do it all year for yourself.
You can do it all year. Yeah, you just won't get prizes for it. But you know, this is your the little fire under your butt to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a month to get your shit.
Cool. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I'm just excited that I have so many people wanting to support and help me with this, and that there are people willing to participate in it, and I just feel very blessed and thankful for that. And I can't wait to see all of the posts, and I can't wait to share all of the things that I have. So yeah, I'm just excited.
As you should be. Well, thank you so much for putting it all together and for chatting today. And
Thanks for doing this for me.
yeah, you're most welcome. And we will then catch you on the Instagram, Carmine Black Dance. I'm sure everyone knows already, but
Well, thank you so much for having me.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for everyone. This is the first time we've both done any Facebook Live thing ever, so we don't really know if we did it right, but hopefully so. I think I'm going to save it, and hopefully it goes to both. I think it goes to both of our timelines, so hopefully people in the future will catch this too. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Thanks, Carmine.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.